Hello, this video is on polar aligning your telescope. So at this point, your camera should be in your telescope with one cord going to your USB 3 port and one going to your Arduino. Your motor should be on your telescope, connected to your controller, and your controller should have power through this battery pack. First, something that seems simple is making sure your tripod points north. I use my phone's compass to make sure this N on the tripod points directly north. Next is latitude. Adjust this until the arrow is pointing to your latitude. Also, adjust the lengths of your legs until this bubble is in the center of this black circle. When it is in the center, your telescope will be level. Make sure your motor controller knows which hemisphere you are in, north hemisphere or south hemisphere. Next is balancing your telescope. Unlock one axis of your telescope and knock the other while gently pushing on one end of your telescope. If it moves very quickly when pushing on one side, then the other, move this weight. Once you have balanced it, your telescope should be able to stay in this position without being held there. Make sure your solar filter is on your telescope. Pointing the camera through the telescope directly at the sun can break it, which is something we absolutely do not want. Camera orientation is also important to help the processing of images after the eclipse. We want everyone to have their camera oriented in approximately the same rotation. Here, you want it perpendicular to the mount cradle. Now, you have to test that your polar alignment is proper. So, this is the proper fire capture setup. It may ask you what camera you will be using. For our case, it is a point gray. After that, this screen will show up. Adjust the zoom until you can see all of the black preview window. Make sure that the 16-bit here is checked. Your gain is all the way down at 0 and gamma is unchecked. To get settings, scroll down. This gear will take you to them. Here's the list of all settings. You may change some stuff. Most likely all you will adjust are these filters and where your images are saved to. At this point, you need to make sure that your sun is in view of the telescope. Doing this, you may want to minimize the shadow of your telescope on the ground or take out your camera and off the lens cap so that you can minimize the light coming through your telescope. Be warned that you may not be able to see anything even if you are pointed at the sun. You may have to adjust your focus. Once the sun is in view, wait. The sun may or may not drift. If it drifts out of view, this is bad alignment. If it doesn't, you're good to go and you can move on to focusing. To fix bad alignment, adjust these knobs here. If you can tell that the sun drifted south, then your alignment is too far east and you must adjust accordingly. If you can tell that the sun drifted north, then your alignment is too far west and you should adjust accordingly. If this still does not work, it may be because your motor is not hooked up to your mount correctly. This pin here should be tightened against the flat side of the motor knob. Continue doing this until your polar alignment is good and the sun does not drift out of view. Lucky you guys, you may not even have to do all of this for the final eclipse. We are currently working to have everything in MATLAB and to have a graphical user interface. We are hoping it will look something like this, with tabs for different tasks, preview windows, and buttons to do whatever the task requires. Unfortunately, polar alignment still must be done by hand. MATLAB cannot fix this for you. Congratulations, you have polar aligned your telescope. Move on to the focusing step.